Have you ever wondered what hides behind the peaceful white snow? When the lake freezes over, when the forest falls silent, and when you think you're somewhere safe, someone or something might be silently watching your every step. Welcome to Scary Stories, where chilling true tales will make you never look at winter the same way again. In today's video, I'll recount 3 real-life experiences that took place on New Year's Eve, 3 moments of facing pure terror that the people involved will never forget. And if you're watching this on a cold night, make sure your doors are locked tight and don't take your eyes off the screen. Story 1: 3 figures in the woods on New Year's Eve. I don't think I'll ever forget New Year's Eve of 2017. I had just finished the semester at the University of Rochester and was on my way home to Ohio. For some personal reasons, I had to stay on campus for an extra week, which meant I spent Christmas pretty much alone. My mood on the flight home was already pretty low, and things got worse when my favorite football team, the Cleveland Browns, just became the first team in modern history to finish a season without a single win. My flight home was delayed, which meant my parents had to leave for the New Year's party at a relative's house without waiting for me. I had to drive myself home in the old car, with only our golden retriever Vera as my travel buddy. At least Vera always made things a bit easier. When I shut the car door and started driving, it was almost 10 p.m. Snow dusted the road, the sky was pitch black with no moon, no stars. The road to my relative's house was a quiet country route winding through forests and frozen fields. No cars coming the other way, no house lights. Just my headlights slicing through the night. About halfway there, Vera began to whine. At first I thought she just wanted attention, but then she stood up, turned toward the window, let out a soft growl and stared into the dark woods on the roadside. I realized she probably needed to go, so I pulled into a small clearing off the road. Just snow trees and darkness. I didn't leash her, she'd never run off before. She wandered to the edge of the trees, sniffed a few spots, and did her business. I stood there, hands buried in my coat pockets, shivering and hoping she'd hurry up. And then, a sound came from the woods. Not the usual snapping of dry branches. It was heavy, as if someone or something was running on 2 legs through the underbrush. Vera heard it before I did. She looked up, then bolted into the darkness like something had called her. I screamed her name, panicked, running after her with my phone's flashlight flickering in the wind and cold. The only thing keeping me from getting lost was the white snow under my feet. I ran, until I couldn't see anything, couldn't hear anything but my pounding heart and the wind howling through the trees. Then I saw Vera. She was crawling slowly toward me, body trembling, eyes wide open. Her tail was tucked tight between her legs. She had never acted like that. As I knelt down, she pressed herself against me, her whole body shaking uncontrollably. And then I saw it, blood matted on her fur. I stood up terrified, dragging Vera back to the car, but my mind was stuck on the echo of that sound. As we backed away from the woods, Vera clung to my leg like a scared child, and then I heard it footsteps. I turned around. In the dim glow of my flashlight, 3 figures were standing there. Not moving, not speaking, just staring. I didn't think. I ran. Vera ran. We reached the car and I practically threw her into the seat, jumped behind the wheel, jammed the keys in and floored it. In the rearview mirror, those 3 figures were still there. Not coming closer, not retreating, just watching. I drove for several more miles before I could breathe again. Vera whimpered. I turned on the cabin light and saw a gash under her shoulder, deep and red. Not something caused by a fall. Someone or something had done that to her. I did what I could with the emergency kit my mom kept in the trunk, my hands shaking the entire time. As I held Vera close, I felt a tiny bit of relief. But deep down, I knew that night I had seen something I wasn't supposed to see. And maybe it had seen me too. Story 2: The Trip with No Return. I still vividly remember that New Year's Eve night. The snowstorm seemed to swallow the world beyond the windshield. I was driving alone from the city to my parents' house in rural Pennsylvania, planning to ring in the new year with them. The trip was a few hours long, and I usually enjoyed drives like that. But the weather wasn't on my side that night. When the snow started falling heavily, I knew I had to pull over. My sedan had skidded a few times before I found a safe spot by the roadside. All around was endless white and complete darkness. No streetlights, no passing cars. I sat inside, engine running in bursts to keep the heat going. Outside was a deathly silence broken only by the wind moaning against the windows like someone whispering my name. And then headlights flared behind me. A snowplow pulled up next to my car. A man stepped out. The light from the vehicle illuminated his wrinkled, ashen face. He wore a thick coat, a beanie pulled down low over his eyes, and stared at me without saying a word. Only when I asked did he respond. His voice was raspy like a lifelong smoker. He offered me a ride, saying the road ahead was no longer passable. I hesitated. I had always been told never to go with strangers. But in that storm, my odds alone weren't much better. I grabbed my backpack and climbed into the plow truck. It was warmer inside, but the cold still clung to me from within. I gave him my parents' address, but the truck didn't go that way. Shortcut, he said. But my phone's map told a different story. Every wrong turn made the map spin, constantly rerouting like it was warning me. I started feeling uneasy, not just about the direction, but the strange details inside the truck. Empty liquor bottles rolling underfoot, shredded map pieces stuffed in door pockets, and worst of all, a dagger resting between the seats. My heart thundered. I knew I had to get out. I pretended not to notice, eyes scanning ahead, and spotted a small house dimly lit in the snow. My one shot. As the truck approached, I flung the door open and jumped out to the sound of him shouting. The snow cut into my skin like blades. I hit the ground, hard, pain shooting up my leg, but I got up and sprinted toward the light. He yelled behind me, and I heard something rattle in the glove compartment. I didn't look back. I pounded on the house's door, screaming. A couple opened it, shocked to see me. Through tears, I told them everything. They immediately called the police. But by the time they arrived, the snowplow was gone, as if it had never been there. To this day, I don't know what saved me that night, intuition or sheer luck. But one thing I know for sure, if I hadn't jumped when I did, I wouldn't be alive to tell this story. Story 3. The Trap on the Ice. I was never into loud parties. For me, the ideal New Year's Eve was somewhere far from the city, quiet, cold, and full of reflection. Since I was a kid, I'd go ice fishing with my dad and brother every New Year's Eve, a strange but sacred tradition. My dad passed a few years ago, my brother moved to Chicago, but I kept the tradition alive, as a tribute. That year, I went with two close friends, Nate and Trevor, big bearded guys, who looked like lumberjacks, but were surprisingly careful. We picked a secluded frozen lake deep in the Ontario woods, known only to a few locals. It was bone-chilling cold, but eerily beautiful. As we parked by the forest's edge, I noticed a man standing near the trailhead. He wore a thick coat hood, up unmoving. But the way he stared at our car didn't look like someone out to fish. He looked at us, then at his phone, then back at us again. I warned my friends. That guy seems off. Nate and Trevor glanced over but brushed it off. We had just started unloading gear when he suddenly charged toward us, waving his arms and yelling, "Help!" My friend fell through the ice. He's drowning. None of us hesitated. Within seconds, we were running after him, leaving our gear, even our coats, behind. The wind cut our faces, snow blinded us. We sprinted through the woods, following the trail he led toward the lake. But I noticed something strange. He wasn't taking us to the usual fishing spot where the ice was thick and safe. Instead, he headed toward a remote part of the lake I knew well, where the ice was thin and fragile. Before we could react, two more men appeared ahead. They stood by the ice's edge, no fishing gear, no movement, just silently watching us approach. Something felt horribly wrong. And then one of them raised his hand, holding a gun. "Right here's fine, fellas," he said casually, like it had all been planned. We froze. The guide turned around grinning wickedly. It was a setup. He demanded our car keys, wallets, phones. Trevor and I didn't dare move. Nate was trembling with rage, but still tossed his keys. One of the guys grabbed our bags, the other silently rifled through our coats and wallets. I tried to keep my phone hidden, but one of them shoved the gun closer. That too. We were marched back to the car under close watch. One guy jumped into Nate's vehicle and drove off. The others vanished into the forest. Not one looked back at us. We stood there in the blasting wind and thick snow. Nate was scarily silent. Trevor was shaking, unsure if it was from cold or fury. Then suddenly Nate pulled out a phone from inside his undershirt. He'd lied about leaving it in the car. We called the cops. While waiting, we huddled together, gripping each other's hands for warmth. But one question kept spinning in my head. How did they know we'd be there? Who plans a robbery in the middle of the woods on New Year's Eve? Nate's car was never found, and those three men disappeared as if they never existed. Since that night, every time I see a frozen lake in winter, I think of that evening when a harmless family tradition nearly ended forever. You've just listened to 3 real stories that happened during the winter moments when life and death were separated by a single decision, a glance, or a wrong step. If you enjoy terrifying tales based on real events, support the channel by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. I'll be back with more stories that'll make you think twice before turning off the lights. Thank you for watching to the end. And remember, on cold, lonely nights, never stop your car in the middle of nowhere. You never know who or what might be waiting for you in the dark.